Welcome back to another episode of the Beyond the Blueprint podcast, powered by Lapolis Electric. I'm your host, Steven Marcelino, Vice President of Sales with Lapolis Electric. And today, we're here with John Cofini, a great friend to Carmine Lapolis and Lapolis Electric in general. John Cofini is the partner of Acrisure Insurance in the New York region, and Acrisure is the fifth largest insurance company in the world. And I'll turn it over to John so he could speak a little bit about Acrisure and what he's doing, over there at their brokerage.
Hey, Steve, thank you. So Acrisure is the fifth largest broker currently in the world. They've grown tremendously over the last 10 years. Prior to Acrisure, we were B&C Insurance Agency in Rybrook, and our specialty was always New York construction. So in my new role with Acrisure now, I'm leading our New York construction team.
Very nice.
We're a team of about 100 people in New York, specific to New York construction. And we are, truly partners to our clients here in New York. We write a lot of general contractors, owner developers, as well as many trade contractors. Carmine has been probably one of my longest clients. When I first started in the business in 1986, it wasn't soon after that Carmine and I got together and started working together. And again, we've been together since '88, I believe, is when we started.
Wow.
I think Carmine was with Charlie. I think they had a van or two in Pelham, and now obviously Lapolis is one of the premier electrical contractors in the state, and especially in the city of New York. And it's been a wonderful relationship.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know if you guys have been together since 1988, you and Carmine have both been together from the beginning, it sounds like, and what a prosperous relationship over the years. That's awesome. So starting, when did your business start? Because I know now you're with Acrisure, of course, over the last couple of years, but prior to Acrisure, you built up quite a business for yourself with B&C. So why don't you tell us a little bit about B&C and where you guys started?
Yeah, when I first started in the industry, I actually started on the carrier side. I was with a company called USF&G, which was one of the premier insurance carriers in New York for contractors back in the day. But like most industries, there was a lot of merger and acquisition. In the end, USF&G, Continental, all of the big carriers back then, all were acquired by others. Premier carrier in New York now being Travelers for construction. Back in the day, then I went to work for a company called Milbrandt, and that's how I met Carmine. We were both in Pelham on Fifth Avenue.
Oh, nice.
Call came in one day that these folks across the street were interested in someone speaking to them about their insurance. They were a small electrical contractor in Westchester. I was the new guy on the team, so they sent me across, and that's when the love affair started. I sat down across from Carmine. We started chatting. Like most conversations go, it's who do you know? I know that guy. I know this guy. Where'd you go to school? All those good things, and there was a lot of connections, and we talked about his business, where he was going, what he was doing, and for me, I was new, so if you know Carmine too, it could be a little bit intimidating. Big guy, but he's a sweetheart, as everyone knows. But we started chatting, and we again, like I'd like to do with most of my clients, is really understand kind of what's the need. What's the opportunity? What's the deliverable, right? At the end of the day, everyone needs insurance, but why am I here, right? Yep. What is it that's going on with your current program that you think isn't working? And what I try to do is talk them through, who you to work for? Who do you work for? Where do you work? How big are you? What are your sales? What are your payrolls?
Yeah.
Tell me about the jobs you're doing. Tell me about the owners or GCs you're working for, because all of those things are important in designing, the right solution for that carrier. And that's where we started going, and it's never changed.
Yeah.
Every year we sit down and we talk about that. Now you see, I mean, this company has grown tremendously over the last 35 years. So where he was then to where he is today, two different places.
Yeah, it's truly, I mean, it's truly amazing to see, being, I know my father, Steve Marcelino Sr.,
Yeah.
from when he came on board with Carmine almost 20 years ago now, 20 plus years ago, to see where they've grown from then to now. I mean, just to put it in perspective, when they were on the smaller shop on Fifth Avenue in Pelham, my father was more or less, estimating and running projects with Carmine out of the back of the warehouse, almost in like a
Right.
janitor's closet.
Yeah.
To now they have an office building on 7th Street in Pelham.
Yeah.
And their offices that they've accumulated over time. So to see the growth of the company from when I was a child to current date, and to be involved with the company it's truly impressive. What Carmine has done over the past 40 years to grow to where he is. Aside from our presence in Pelham, we have offices now in Paulding, Poughkeepsie, Millbrook. We offer electrical services to the whole tri-state area. We're involved in an international franchise. I mean, it's quite impressive to say the least to see the way this company's grown through my own lens, and I'm sure being by Carmine's side for that ride over the past 35, 40 years. I mean, I'm sure it's been, for yourself personally, too, it's been impacting to your own business.
Like I
and
said,
your life.
I like to think of my clients not as clients, but more as partners, right? We partner with each other. And that was the idea. I knew when we both started talking, we both had visions of scaling and growing our company. So, putting the insurance piece aside, we had, many conversations over lunch about those types of things, how to scale, how to grow, what the challenges are, as you grow, how to onboard the right people, how to get the right talent to the jobs that he's taking and what impact that would have on how his current program was performing, all those things. And they were great conversations. Even up to today, same idea. Eventually, as we scaled and grew, because we were both doing the same thing on the M&A side, like Lapolis. We were buying a lot of other insurance agencies along the way. We had an affinity for the New York construction piece, but as well as the high net worth personal lines. So, we capitalized on that by working with some competitors and then eventually buying them to scale and grow. So not only were we growing organically, we're also growing from the merger and acquisition side along the same way that Lapolis was. Some key acquisitions over the years, scale, grow, taking on jobs that they certainly probably didn't dream of taking on 35 years ago.
Yeah.
But now they're the size and scope of the work they're doing has changed, and it's been fun. It's been fun in watching the success that Lapolis has had as well. In seeing someone you really like doing business with, like Carmine, is also very, very rewarding.
Yeah, it's great, and like you said, just the overall scaling. I don't think, because I ask Carmine all the time, and I'm sure if I asked you the same question, did you expect to be where you are, 35, 40 years ago, like when you had your vision of, your business. You guys are both, you being in the commercial insurance business and Carmine being, in the electrical construction industry. Two different industries, obviously your paths cross, but 35, 40 years ago, could you have painted the picture of where you are today, or did you kind of just grow naturally and as new opportunities came along, did you just kind of let it happen and you embraced every opportunity that came across the table?
Listen, I'm not going to sit here and say, yeah, I envision being where I am today from a success factor. I think the formula is nothing more complicated than surrounding yourself with some smart people, with people that think like you know, that have the morals, the values. Those kind of things are important in business. You got to have that synergy. I was lucky to always, I've been able to do that. When I first started, there was, I was the younger guy on the team, and was able to be like a sponge and learn the business from folks that were well respected. They all had terrific knowledge. They were all technically proficient, and very well respected in the industry. And I learned. And same idea is as I started to work with different clients, you're always attracted to people that are somewhat like you.
Yep.
You're in sales, you get it. There's sometimes you just click with someone. Other times, doesn't matter how big they are or how small they are, your personalities just don't match or your values don't match, and it's you don't get that synergy. So what you learn over the years is to look for that. There's those key indicators. Sometimes you just meet someone and everything's right.
Yep.
And then it's easy. And I always tell my guys, when you go out and you meet someone, it shouldn't be a struggle. If they're truly interested and you're asking for information, they're more than happy to give it to you because they want to do business with you. If everything's a hurdle or a struggle or a challenge, chances are that's not a deal that it's going to come to fruition,
No,
right?
100%.
So, no, I always knew, I always wanted to be successful. I was always very, very motivated, to be successful. And I don't just equate making money with success. I think
No.
it's enjoying what you do. It's actually loving what you do. The money comes as just part of that equation when you get it right. So the other thing I did too is over the course of my career, I always and Carmine's been too. We've been involved in our industry. I've been the chair of the New York State Independent Insurance Agency Independent Association, so now called the Big I. You get to know everyone in your industry, and you gravitate towards folks that are doing well, and you learn from them. What are they doing that maybe I can incorporate into my business? And then even mentoring them sometimes. It's nice to give back to the next generation that comes along. So being involved in your industry is also an important piece to getting that success that you want. And it just opens doors. It opens doors. I mean, same idea. And whether it's other brokers that do what I do, or just relationships within the industry, carriers over the years, when you call them, they know who you are, they respect who you are. Just makes doing business that much easier.
Yeah, I think that you hit on a couple extremely important points. One of them being kind of like that networking aspect of, almost being like the staple for information and just overall, call it what it is, like a mogul in the industry. Just having that presence, attending the association meetings, running the association meetings, being the president of the association. These are very important things. When you want to be at top of business in a specific industry, having that presence, because who are people going to go to? The guy nobody knows, or John Cofini, or Carmine Lapolis, that's, extremely involved in the, the overall network of people, for the industry and the surrounding functions of the industry. I think that's extremely important, and that's something that I pay a lot of attention to. I go to outings, I go to networking events, I'm very active in, going to fundraisers on behalf of, Lapolis Electric and being there, not only for my clients, but for the people that are associated with my clients.
Yeah.
Because it's extremely important being, a representative of Lapolis Electric, but also building my personal brand that people know who I am. So they know, if I have a problem, I know exactly who to call at Lapolis Electric to make sure my problem is solved. and they could feel confident that I'm not just like a guy, like a deli clerk taking numbers on a deli line. You know what I mean? I make sure people feel confident. If they call Steven Marcelino with Lapolis Electric, they're going to receive the same level of service that Carmine Lapolis would give somebody,
Right.
because that's what was taught to me. You know, Carmine is a great mentor of mine, and a lot of these, unspoken characteristics that he has, he's passed down to me, and I'm really fortunate for that because I think in today's generation, a lot of those, traits that you're almost born with, a lot of people aren't aware they have them, and there's a lot of traits that can't be taught in a classroom.
Exactly. And again, like you said, the entrepreneurial side of what we do is being able to build your own brand.
Yeah.
Within the scope of whatever the industry that you're in is, and that's exactly what I was talking about as well. And then the part with having the mentor and a lot has to do with your upbringing. There's a connection, and it could be cultural. It could just be kind of where you come from, what you eat, what you don't eat, to open the door to whatever it is that makes you feel comfortable with that other person.
And that's big. Growing up, no matter who I was in the room with, when I walked into a room with my father from a young age, he always taught me how to shake somebody's hand and look somebody in the eyes when you're speaking to them. And that's such an important part of, the way I do business today, because you could be the CEO of a Fortune 500 company. I'm going to walk into the room with confidence, and I'm going to say hello to you. I'm going to shake your hand, and I'm going to have a conversation with you. And, where some people that are in the industry, they may be nervous to talk to that person or almost get like starstruck. My biggest tactic when I walk into a room, I put titles and social status aside and just talk to everybody like they're a normal human being.
Of course.
And that was taught to me, through my upbringing.
Yeah.
When you walk into a room, just talk to everybody.
Right.
Treat everybody the same. And I think that's something that has gotten me to where I am today.
Yeah. When what it comes down to is, I think, all we want is transparency. We want to be told the truth, right? And I think that's what I've used, over the course of my career with the folks that I work with is being transparent, being honest, which is hard today for a lot of folks. And when you do find someone that is honest and transparent and isn't trying to sell you something other than who they are, what they do, right, and partnering with them, it's easy to do business with them. And I think, again, whether it's Carmine or the other accounts I've been fortunate to work with over the years, it's always been that. I've got clients like Carmine for 35 years. Not that there aren't a million other brokers knocking on their door every day, because there are.
Yeah, every day.
And if someone's always got, like they say, a better mousetrap to try and get you in. But, it's I've been fortunate in that whenever that did happen, that client would call me and give me the opportunity to explain to them why, the solution that we've designed for them is still the right one, or what's going on there.
Yep.
And there's been times when even though the pricing may have been better from broker B, they still opted to stay because of that trust factor and wanting to sleep at night and knowing that, right? So
it goes beyond trust factor, in my opinion, too. I think it comes down to relationship.
yeah,
When you have a relationship with somebody, you develop, like you said, a level of trust with that person, and you're going to listen to them and why, whether it's me dealing with one of my clients or Carmine dealing with you, why these people are choosing us over our competitors. The relationship of human to human is so powerful in business, because at the end of the day, I always say people buy from people.
Yeah.
And if you make them feel like they're more than just a number, or an amount at the bottom of the page, it goes beyond that. It goes beyond being a little bit more expensive, because 9 times out of 10, I am more expensive than my competitors. But is my competitor going to answer the phone at 2 o'clock in the morning when you need them? Or, are you going to get a quote in a 24-hour turnaround time? And all these unspoken factors of
Right.
business that I offer people because of the way I was trained, that a lot of boxes aren't being checked when you put, Steven Marcelino and Lapolis Electric next to competitor A, B, and C. And that's what makes us who we are in our industries.
Yeah, yeah. And I always like to say, you're buying a different product.
Yeah.
What they're offering you is a different product than what we're offering you. No different than,
100%.
you're buying a Hyundai instead of a Mercedes. It's still a car with 4 wheels and might get you somewhere close to where you want to be, but it's not the same product.
Yep.
Right? So, and that goes back to what's going on in the insurance marketplace now for New York construction. Obviously, New York is not an easy state to do business
No,
in.
not at all.
And especially from an insurance perspective, because of how litigious it is, because of the volumes of people that live in the New York area, especially 5 boroughs of New York. It's a very expensive place, and it's a very difficult place currently for contractors. To navigate. It used to be where I would sit like this in front of a client, and they'd say, "Okay, tell me what insurances I need." Right? That's 40 years ago. But when you're out doing a job today, if you're going to work for a larger owner developer, typically there's a contract,
Yep.
and that contract is going to push down to you all of the requirements that you need to meet to work for them.
Yep.
Right? And part of those requirements certainly pertain to your insurance.
100%.
So and again, because of the climate in New York, that contractor needs to protect himself. That owner needs to protect himself on that job site from anything that could possibly go wrong. So typically those insurances are very broad, and they're also very expensive. So the idea that I'm sitting here selling someone something they don't need doesn't exist. It's top down. And the idea then is, well, what relationships do you have? What is the experience of that contractor? My job is to marry them with the carrier that is going to meet the needs of that contract, provide the broadest terms for the best pricing. Problem we have in New York, though, is that there's so few carriers now that are interested in writing construction in New York that there's not a broad appetite. So pricing has gone up, coverages have gone down. So to be the to work on the best of breed projects in New York, you've got to have best of breed coverage,
100%.
which is not cheap from any stretch of the imagination, right? So when someone comes in often and says, "Wow, you're paying too much," well, there's 2 ways that you can get your coverage down, right? Typically is you can take on more risk, which means, in layman's terms, loss sensitive, higher deductibles, more you're going to take on, right? Which, might not be allowable by the folks that you're working for.
It's like leasing a car. No company is going to let you lease a car if you don't have full coverage.
Correct.
It could be, I'm assuming it could be looked at the same way with commercial insurance specific to the construction industry, because that's what we're talking about here. If you don't have the proper coverage to perform on a project, the general contractor or the developer is going to turn around and say, "Well, we don't want you on our job then because
Yeah,
you're
they're
too much of a risk
they're not
to
gonna let
our
you on the job."
insurance."
Correct. And their carriers are doing the same thing. So typically you'll hear the term vetting. So the owner will vet the GC to make sure the GC's got all the proper coverages, is holding him harmless, everything upstream is in place, and then there's a process. Every sub that comes on the job has to meet those requirements. So it's unfortunate because insurance is so expensive in New York. There's a lot of trades that opt for what we call limitations or warranties in their coverage. Something might say, in specific, let's say to an electrical contractor, you guys typically work at heights,
Yep.
right? You need ladders, you need lifts. If you're working exterior, you need bucket trucks. So if I said, someone came in and said, "Hey, your insurance is too expensive. I can offer you this product over here, but this product has a 9-foot height restriction."
Yep.
Well, that's not going to help you if you're going up 30 feet in a bucket truck
No.
exterior. It might lower the cost of your insurance, but now you've just eliminated any jobs you're going to do that are going to be at heights greater than 9 feet, right?
Yeah.
Number one. Number two is typically your better jobs also are not going to allow any height restriction
Yeah.
in your form, because we don't know tomorrow. You think you're not going to go up, 9 feet, but you're up higher than that, right?
You're up
And
30 feet, 40 feet.
easily. So the bigger GCs, owner developers
Yeah.
won't allow for those type of limitations in the form. So the coverage needs to be broad, and that's the difference between a Lapolis, let's say, and some of the competitors you might have, is in the broad terms of your insurance program as well.
Yeah, I think that's huge, because a lot of the times when I'm bidding a project, I get projects not because I'm the lowest number or because of all the other great things, we have to offer when it comes to our scope of work and our programs we develop specific for my division. It's because of the insurance policies we carry sometimes, or the type of backing we have to actually carry a job out from a liability standpoint. That's something that I think, aside from the technical growth that we've had as a company over the years, Carmine also appropriately grew the business to allow us to outcompete a lot of the other ECs in the industry in the tri-state, because we're paying attention to things like our insurance policy, and a lot of other people may not be doing that.
They're not. And what he's done also that goes deeper in that. So what insurance carriers look for today in a client is a safe, culture, a safety culture.
Huge.
Site safety is huge, and Carmine over the years saw the importance of that, has invested heavily in individuals on his team specific to site safety, equipment and maintenance, and all of those things. Our loss control folks meet with Lapolis, probably 4 or 5 times a year, specific jobs, training. All of those things are what's important, and that's what a carrier looks at in terms of, is this a contractor that we're interested in even offer terms to.
Yeah.
So today, if you're an electrical contractor, you're a GC, you're any trade contractor doing business in New York, first question is, do you have a dedicated site safety person on your team? If you don't, they put you
Goodbye.
in this column
Yeah.
B. You're not going to get these best-of-breed carriers to really offer you terms.
Yeah.
You're going to end up with the secondary market where you're going to have those limitations and warranties in your form, and you're not going to have the broadest terms, and you're also going to pay significantly more. So those like Carmine that have invested heavily in the safety culture of the company are certainly looked at by the insurance industry as much more favorable than those that don't.
Yeah. And I think it goes, the safety side of it is huge, and I think it goes just beyond insurance. Even the clientele we work with, they do not want to work with companies that aren't safe. And even on the managerial side, everyone in our office to a degree has an OSHA card. We have sites, SST certifications, NFPA 70E specific to the electrical industry, NFPA 70E electrical safety certifications. So from the gentlemen that are performing the work, the men and the women in the field, to the management staff, we're all thinking safe. All of our technicians in my division specifically, are working on a lot of the time live electrical components. So every tech, lead technician, mechanics, and helpers all have their own PPE bags that contain 40 cal arc flash suits, face shields, hoods, the balaclava, the leather and rubber insulated gloves. We make sure that they're able to stay up to date with fire rated boots, and always, they always have a minimum of 8-calorie rated fire rated clothing on.
Yeah.
So at all times when they're in front of a live electrical panel, they're always safe. And these are procedures that we have implemented from a managerial side to make sure that our technicians are safe, that they don't need to wake up in the morning and say, well, am I going to be able to, wear the proper clothing? No, we make sure that they have the proper clothing. That there is a, written safety plan, a written safety procedure for them, like a sign-on, sign-off procedure. So when they're going into a new job, that they're aware of the hazards on the job before it becomes a hazard.
Correct.
And they could go through the proper hazard elimination procedure to make that job site even safer than it could be.
Yeah, and then the other side of that is what we do. Is we do thorough claims analytics as well. So we'll look at the account over time. We look for trends. We look for things that that kind of don't add up. If we in one case years and years ago, we saw a lot of guys were getting injuries to their forearms and their hands, cuts, bruises, because they're always up in the panels.
Yeah.
And so again, the idea of wearing gloves that they could work with, right, changes the outcome, right, of or mitigates the likelihood that they're going to continue to have these types of losses, which again is something proactive that could be done using the data and analytics from doing a claims review, right? So those are the kind of things that we do over the course of the year. Data and analytics are huge, right? We're constantly looking at, what are we doing? How are we doing? Can we spot any trends? What's going on? And then even after the loss happens, it's important. We've had plenty of discussions over the years on that. We do all the pre-work to make sure that we mitigate the likelihood that we're going to have a loss, or what we can to mitigate the likelihood. But it's inevitable, it's New York, it's construction, things happen. Then what's important is if a loss does happen, what's the process we have in place to make sure we take the pictures? If it was a device that malfunctioned, we want to keep it. We want to do everything we can to gather all the data we need so that, again, as we go through that claim process, we have a more positive outcome in the end. Unfortunately for New York too, the other thing that is prevalent is fraud. So you have a lot of fraud in New York construction. So what carriers are looking at is ways to eliminate those fraudulent lawsuits, and a lot of that has to do with all of the site safety, the analytics, the data, the whatever you're doing to secure that site is important.
Making sure that there's a real process and procedure in place, and it's not just
not checking the box.
Fairy tale.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and that's kind of where the industry is going. Those that invest heavily, those that don't just check the box, that actually do have that culture and do all the work that you're talking about, will in the end be the ones with the best of breed carriers with those things and able to take those jobs. And the ones that don't are going to pay significantly more and probably not get that work. So
interesting.
Yeah.
So John, before we wrap up here today, I want to ask you a question to give our listeners that may be younger entrepreneurs or an entrepreneur that's trying to kind of freshen his game up a little bit, so to speak.
Yeah.
Give us a tip, from an entrepreneurial standpoint that you've kind of followed throughout your career to be where you are today. What is like the number one thing an entrepreneur should be doing in their daily routine to make sure that they're going to be successful?
Yeah, I think we spoke about a few of them earlier. You've got to stay engaged. You got to love what you do. Number one. Number two, you've got to surround yourself with the smartest people you know. We're all good at something. We're all not good at everything. So
Correct.
One of the things I learned early on was, as good as I was on the sales side and the relationship side, And even the technical side of knowing insurance coverage. I wasn't the CFO.
Yeah.
Right. That wasn't my bailiwick. But when I found the right partner who was that, 1 and 1 didn't equal 2, it equaled 5.
Yeah.
Because we kind of married those together. And then we had another guy who, was more from an operations perspective, right? You got to understand, what you're good at, and more importantly, not that you're not good at it, but is there someone out there that's better at that than you would be?
Strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah, just to scale and to grow. And so there's the, you've everyone's got an idea. Everyone wants to be the best at what they do. But it truly is a team. You got to surround yourself with the right folks. And then there's got to be synergies there. Right. And that's part of it. You can be the best CFO. You can be the best operations guy. I could be the best sales guy. But if we're not rowing in the same direction,
no,
it doesn't work.
The boat's going to tip.
It's going to tip. And I've had that, too, in the career. Early on, I was the younger guy and I wanted to go. And some of the older guys weren't as enthusiastic about it. Ambitious. They kind of wanted to keep things the way they were. So you've got to align yourself with the right people. You got to trust. And again, I don't want to sound like the football coach because I don't think it's the guy who works the hardest or the longest, I think it's the guy who works the smartest. It's the guy who really understands that early on and surrounds himself with the right people, puts the right people in the right spots, and knows their limitations as well. I didn't start writing, $1 million accounts when I was 22 years old. But I learned over the years, there's not a lot of difference, to your point before, between the guy that's, paying millions of dollars for his insurance and the guy that's paying 50 grand. It's the process is the same. It's the conversation. You got to connect. You got to partner with them. And again, when you know your space, you gain that trust of the people on the other end. So
awesome, John.
Yeah.
Listen, thank you very much for coming out today.
Yeah,
This was
appreciate it.
This was a very great, informative episode that we were able to provide our listeners with, and I just want to say thank you for coming on the show. Someone of your stature in your industry and your experience. It's great to have you on the podcast. Thank you very much.
Appreciate being here.
And I just want to thank the listeners for tuning into another episode of the Beyond the Blueprint podcast, powered by Lapolis Electric. I'm your host, Steven Marcelino, Vice President of Sales with Lapolis Electric. Have a great day.